Perfect. All right, guys. So for our first topic, our main kind of topic before we jump into our community comments and more, we're talking about Diablo 4. Now, I got a chance to go hands-on with it over this weekend. Chris, are you going to check it out this coming weekend? I'm just generally curious.
Yeah, so I was going to join the queue Friday night and try to play Sunday after breakfast.
Okay, cool.
I think that's about the time that I expect queue to take.
The queues, I don't think
they'll
were that
give me
bad.
in for the Sunday 4 a.m. slot.
I don't think the queues were that bad personally. There were a couple times where that I hit
stable when it was paid. This is free.
The longest queue I saw was 45 minutes for me. I wasn't actively always like gotta be online after Friday. That was only on Friday though. That's when it went live and all the initial rush. Saturday, like I had a 1 minute queue. Sunday, a 0 minute queue. Wasn't, and I guess the catch here is that there isn't a huge wave of people like investing in their characters because they know that after this coming weekend it's all going to get reset. But I got to level 11 and I got to level 5 on Sorceress. So I got level 11 on a
didn't get the puppy pack.
Not yet. I get this coming weekend to finish it off. Dude, I got kids, man.
But it could be, you could have a digital puppy in a backpack.
Yeah.
Instead of having like real kids care for you.
Real loving. And we did soccer all day on Sunday.
See, if they were already your laundry butlers, you could have just leveled up during their laundry butler time.
And if you want to know what he's talking about, if you did miss that in the clip or the live show, check the shorts. We're sure going to have that up there for you guys as a good, hopefully educational laugh. Smash like. All right. But no, in that case, I got Sorceress level 5. Awesome. Sorceress, you're absolutely right. Like the why am I drawing a blank? I'm gonna call him Berserker, but it's the whatever, the big smashy smash. Why can't I think of the class name?
Barbarian.
I was like, why do I keep going back to anyway, Barbarian. And
because I always picture my Aunt Barb.
Well, I don't have an Aunt Barb, so like I guess
I don't think she's really my aunt. I think if you grow up in Missouri, people that are around a lot are just family now.
You're one of your friends, like one of your mom's friends, like,
this is my grandma's friends, Barb. I don't know, I just picture her. She has a little like bob haircut and a cigarette in her hands, like at all times. She's looked the same since 1970.
Hey, what's up, Chris?
Somehow hasn't aged at all.
Give your Aunt Barb a hug, Chris. Come here. I'm just ridiculous today. So, Barbarian felt so slow. Like it was just like something where I was playing it. Like I absolutely had a blast. Played it all on controller. Released my controller guide this past Monday for Diablo. And then I switched over to Sorceress to make sure I'm testing how does it feel on ranged. And oh my gosh, like Sorceress just felt so much better overall, just as far as the class goes. So I'm sure we'll probably see some adjustments when it comes down to that. And so at its core, like I'm actually really kind of impressed by what we've played so far. There's no way we can know what the end game of Diablo right now feels like. This is all just kind of that initial offering. And so what are you going to be looking to kind of test? Because I know your brother was trying to decide if they wanted to get into it as well. What are you going to look at this weekend and basically then try to communicate to your brothers?
So I really just want to know how it runs on my machine. And that's about all I can test, in my opinion, because the vast majority of your Diablo experience is not leveling. As a matter of fact, historically in Diablo, if your friends join even like a week into the season, you just power level them. Like it's not a game that's really about the leveling. And like I hear the cutscenes and the story is delightful, but that feels more like, isn't it weird that not I expected that. It's like the Final Fantasy game, it's like the story's great. Don't tell me. But with Diablo, it's like the story's great. Why were you doing the story? So like I hear that's really well done, but I just don't think that's why you play. Like I've heard that certain Call of Duty games have great campaigns. We'll never confirm. Like it's just not why I play.
There's a campaign.
They said one year they're like they're going to ship it without the campaign to save them money and have a smaller installed space on your hard drive. I was like, smaller install. Woo. All right. Like it just doesn't make any difference to me. As opposed to like my neighbor was like, dude, I love Call of Duty games. I was like, we should play sometime. He goes, oh, I already beat the campaign. And I was like, what? And he goes, I only play for the campaign.
What?
I believe I've heard of people like you. I've never met you.
You found a unicorn.
That's so exciting. That's so exciting. I had no idea
who
those people were, but I caught one. So like beyond that, I want to know how the end game works, where I'm going to spend hundreds, if not thousands of hours if I end up picking this game up. And that's not something they're ready to show us. So I'd just like to know that the classes play okay, that it feels like there might be evidence that there's some build variety, that the servers seem like the game runs okay. And that's it. That's all I want to know. So like, I don't think I need 50 hours to do that. So my plan is to probably play it Sunday, because I assume that Friday and Saturday is going to be people who are like, I'm going to play from Friday to Sunday night. And then they realize they're not. And so I assume Sunday will be better. That's my plan.
I think you're going to be fine on Saturday. Like, so if you do find the time and you're like, hey, I'm not doing much on Saturday, I would absolutely check it out. Now, Solomon in chat says, Asmund also said that the Sorceress feels way better than Barb, and he usually always goes for the Barb character. So he just had more fun with the Sorceress this time around. So it's good to know that us two kind of gingerly balding gentlemen here in the Texas area agree. If you are ginger balding and look somewhat like Asmund or me, he is. Like, his hair's kind of reddish. People always look at me and like, especially before I ever heard of the guy, they're like, hey, this guy looks like Asmund.
Like, he doesn't want to play like a big jack dude and like have this like fantasy or whatever. And like, you know, that's like his whole thing. So I guess mine is who doesn't want to play a lady with magic. I don't know. Like,
I would, yeah, like hands down, you give me the choice, I would absolutely play as a lady with magic. That sounds like
shape-shifting is like my favorite. That's my go-to in like D&D and stuff. Like shape-shifting is just so cool.
Oh yeah,
big Animorphs fan back in the day.
Druid, dude, I'm so excited for this weekend to go hands-on with the Druid 100%. Roll none, excuse me. There's a separation between campaign and endgame, though the seasons there are substantial number of quests that make us wonder how it will impact the seasonal play of endgame. Do you have any concerns about how they are upgrading the seasonal model? Because it isn't, at least from my understanding, it isn't like previous Diablo 3 and you know, kind of seasons where everything resets.
The first one to be somewhere between I love this day one, day two, I can't believe they locked us behind this, it's terrible, and then just a whole bunch of people who were like, it would have been fine if they just made it good. And so that's why I expect the first season to kind of play out really rapidly. But from there, like, it's fine. Like, it's a seasonal game. Like, people still play seasons of Diablo. People still play seasons of Path of Exile. Like, that's what these games are. So out of the gate, you just need to have the template laid out so that we know what kinds of things you can do with seasons.
Yeah.
And if they can find a sustainable way to roll out keywords and affixes and all these kind of words, that rune words and all these different systems that different games in the action RPG space have used, that can make that fun. It does seem like it's going to be an affix heavy game from everything that I've heard so far, which means that if the affixes aren't fun, it won't be a fun season, because that's going to determine your variety. And so if there's not a lot of fun ways to do a build, we're all going to get pigeonholed into the same thing. And that's one of the things that like early Diablo 3 really frustrated the group I play with, is that it felt like, oh, no, I'll have to play pretty much the same thing. It's the same problem we ran into on launch with Wolcen, where it felt like there was really only one set of viable builds that were just wildly outperforming everything else. But, you know, Diablo 2 has come back and they've been messing with things, and it's been largely positive feedback from everybody I've heard from. So there is evidence that it can be done. Path of Exile is always surrounded by some level of positive feedback. So it can be done well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the first season is just about like, what's the formula?
Yeah.
But now we're having the same conversations with Final Fantasy Blue Mage, where like I say, I like limited jobs. Be like, Blue Mage is terrible. I was like, okay, but can we talk about limited jobs for a second? Like, Blue Mage is terrible. Like, so apparently we cannot have an adult conversation about the system, what the system is doing, the interesting idea behind the execution that future executions could use as a mold. There are future limited jobs that could be really great in Final Fantasy 14, but we're so angry about Blue Mage that we may never get one. So like, I'm not against the seasonal model, but the problem is if it's not good the first season, there are going to be a lot of people that close their mind to the second and the third and the fourth season, because we live in a world that, like, in all honesty, they're not entirely crazy for doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why play a game that burned you once when you could play a game that hasn't burned you at all? Like, there's always another game right around the corner.
The one of the interesting things and takeaways, because there's going to be a lot here. The bigger conversation and question that we're going to kind of get to in this discussion is, where does Diablo 4 kind of fit in? Because seasons have that ability to bring you back in. But one of the things I was going to say to you from my initial like offering is that I actually really appreciate kind of the MMO light nature, that shared world nature that they've brought in. The world still feels very Diablo, and then occasionally you get to see other players running around, and it gives you this sense of connectivity and to be able to interact in social different ways, but then at the same time be able to step into like a dungeon and things like that, and then it's still like you and your party, not like everybody's zerging down all of these wild bosses. I think that will be an interesting evolution for the game, something that I thought Diablo Immortal was going to kind of help address, because that was my initial frustration with Immortal, where I was like, but I want to play with other people and have that, but then they went and just completely like mobile first, and monetization actually first, mobile second. And so one of the things that take away already from the weekend was it was really cool for me to see other people running around. But that then leads into the question kind of in terms of this, and one of the regrets I have actually right now as a gamer, because I don't have the context of it, but